Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gomansing. Puerto Rico announced a historic restructuring of its public debt on Wednesday, as we reported, touching off what may be the biggest bankruptcy ever in the municipal bond market. Puerto Rico is barred from a traditional municipal bankruptcy protection under Chapter 9 of the U.S. Code because it is a territory and not a state. Puerto Rico's Governor Ricardo Rosselló announced that he asked the Fiscal Control Board for protection under PROMESA's Title II, and the PROMESA board then presented legal proceeding in the U.S. District Court for Puerto Rico. Stephanie Brown reports.
112 miles from the United States Virgin Islands lies another American territory. Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands are the only 2 out of 5 territories located in the Caribbean, and many residents in the territory have either come from the Latin island or have descended from parents that migrated here. Puerto Rico's economy has been in recession for nearly 10 years, and the island currently has more than $70 billion of outstanding debt, and similar to the Virgin Islands, many American credit rating agencies have downgraded the government's bonds. In 2015, the United States Congress established a board handpicked by former President Obama to govern and monitor Puerto Rico's budget. In attempts to restructure Puerto Rico's debt, the board ordered Governor Ricardo Rosselló to ramp out strong austerity cuts, which include cutting nearly half of the University of Puerto Rico's budget, reducing pension funds, reducing healthcare spending, as well as reducing government operations. Revenue enhancements are also part of the 5 principal areas in the governor's fiscal plan. These plans caused thousands of protesters to roadblock and march in Puerto Rico's capital on Monday to vent their anger. Demonstrators blamed the federal board for their economic plight and requested an audit to find out how exactly the island public's debts equate to $70 billion. Puerto Rico colonial and economic similarities. The Virgin Islands Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett released statements informing that the issues facing Puerto Rico's government and its people are analogous to what we face in the United States Virgin Islands. For News 2, I'm Stephanie Shalana Brown.
Now, Congresswoman Plaskett also stated that allowing Puerto Rico to declare bankruptcy and allowing a control board to oversee bonding may be a solution to the problem, but it does not address the issue at the core. Many communities of color, like Puerto Rico and the other insular areas, have experienced decades of a systematic lack of investment, support, and adequate funding. Be sure to count on 2 to keep you updated. Citing the necessity for immediate action, Governor Kenneth Mapp has called the 32nd legislature into special session to consider 7 proposed bills, and that session will be held on Wednesday, May 10th at 10 a.m. In his letter of transmittal to the Senate President Myron Jackson, the governor urges that the legislature amend the Virgin Islands Horse Racing Industry Assistance Act to include strong anti-doping language, which he submitted previously as part of the franchise agreement with VIGL Inc. And failure to enact anti-doping rules, he said, would kill the deal ratified last year with VIGL. The governor stresses he's also once again proposing that the legislature consolidate the 2 existing district commissions to establish a single regulatory authority within the Department of Sports, Park, and Recreation. Governor Mapp is also requesting that the appropriation to the Department of Human Services be increased by $10 million to provide the local match for the medical assistance program. The governor is also proposing a transfer of $13 million from the Internal Revenue Matching Fund to the General Fund. He's requesting that another $2 million be transferred from the Tourism Advertising Revolving Fund to the General Fund. Now, both transfers are part of the effort to balance this year's fiscal budget, he says, to address emergency sewer repairs and line replacements at the Juan F. Louis Hospital. Governor Mapp requests an appropriation of $3 million. Well, here's another update turning to the Juan Louis Hospital. They said that the hospital is still under Code Yellow, and according to release statements, the hospital's executive team continued to implement measures to abate the existing plumbing issues while maintaining a safe environment of care for their patients. On Monday, the Juan F. Louis notified several government agencies on their sewage drainage backup, and the hospital informed that Waste Management and the Department of Public Works, as well as the National Guard, that they were working together to assess the drainage issue and develop an implementation of a short-term plan. Juan F. Louis has implored that neither patient safety nor indentation control was compromised. The emergency room, bathrooms, and restrooms adjacent to the ER were compromised, and to alleviate the sewage drainage issue, some departments were sent home earlier in the week. The Department of Health will be holding a ribbon-cutting ceremony on Monday to mark the reopening of the Women's, Infants, and Children Clinic, the WIC program, in Frederiksted on the West End. The facility was closed 11 years ago, and that event will be held from 10 to 11 a.m. Monday. Those who attend can also tour the newly renovated facility. Light refreshments will be available. WIC is a federally funded child nutrition and preventive health program funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and administered territorially by the USVI Department of Health. The program provides services to pregnant, breastfeeding, and postpartum women, infants, and children as old as 5 years, including checks for healthy foods, nutrition, and breastfeeding counseling. These services are geared to improve health outcomes and referrals to other health and social services. Nationally, Mental Health America and local entities across the country observe Mental Health Month in May. This year, all states and territories are talking about risky business. That's the theme. The Mental Health America organization informed that it's important to educate people about habits and behaviors that increase the risk of developing or exacerbating mental illness, or could be signs of mental health problems themselves. And these include risk factors such as risky sex, prescription drug misuse, internet addiction, excessive spending, marijuana use, and troublesome exercise patterns. The Virgin Islands Director of Mental Health spoke further.
As the Division of Mental Health through the Department of Health, we are providing psychiatric care, so we have medication management for adults and children. We also provide counseling services, also provide counseling for individuals who may have a substance use disorder. We also do medication-assisted treatment for individuals who previously used opioids.
Well, in other news, the VIPD is investigating a death in the Frenchman's Bay area on St. Thomas. Here's more from the VIPD.
On Thursday, May 4th at approximately 8:30 a.m., the major crime unit was dispatched to the Royal Leicester Schneider Regional Medical Center relative to a DOA, dead on arrival victim. The investigator observed an unresponsive white Caucasian male who was later identified by next of kin, his wife. The deceased name is 44 years old Jeremy Allen Kelly. This case is presently under investigation by the major crime unit. Any persons having information regarding this incident are asked to contact the Investigations Bureau at 340-774-2211, 714-9833. You can also contact Crime Stoppers VI at 1-800-222-TIPS or 911.
Police say on Wednesday, May 3rd at roughly 7:30 p.m. contact was made with Rashim Richards in the Red Hook area, where he was taken into custody and arrested pursuant to an arrest warrant and charged with using a dangerous weapon and disturbance of the peace. On Wednesday, January 7th, the victim reported that while he sat on a friend's porch, he got into a verbal altercation and was assaulted by Mr. Richards. The victim continued to state that a scuffle then ensued when Richards struck him several times with a closed fist, pulled out a knife, and stabbed him in the back. The victim further stated that Mr. Richards also threw a rock at the front windshield of his vehicle, causing it to shatter and puncture 2 of his vehicle tires. He concluded by stating that Richards fled in an unknown direction, and he was transported to the Royal Leicester Schneider Hospital for medical treatment via ambulance for his injuries. Bail for Rashim Richards is set at $25,000. Anyone having information about these crimes, you're urged to contact the Virgin Islands Police Department. Well, after more than 7 years of campaign pledges and 42 days since their initial effort failed in epic fashion, House Republicans have passed their plan to repeal and replace Obamacare. While the passage is a huge victory for President Trump and Republicans, the bill now goes to the Senate, where it has an uncertain fate. Diane Gallagher has the latest from Washington.
The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
A major victory for House Republicans, 7 years in the making. After a whirlwind 11th-hour push, the House on Thursday passing their Obamacare replacement plan, the American Health Care Act.
I want to thank Mike Pence and I want to thank President Donald Trump for their personal involvement in working with our members and working to get this right, for getting this done and getting us to where we are. Thank you, gentlemen.
President Trump basking in the much-needed legislative win.
This is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare. Make no mistake about it.
The bill's passage due in part to a last-minute amendment on pre-existing conditions, a major sticking point for some moderate Republicans. It adds $8 billion to finance high-risk pools in states where those with pre-existing conditions could be charged higher rates. Funding that experts say falls far short of the protections guaranteed under Obamacare, though the White House insists otherwise.
It does.
Democrats are denouncing the bill, saying Republicans will face political fallout over this vote.
They have this vote tattooed on them. This is a scar they will carry.
The bill's next stop, the Senate, where it's certain to face steep challenges.
I'm going to fight it with everything I have.
And changes that could tee it up for another health care battle back in the House.
If they make changes, it has to be somewhat consistent with the outlines we've mapped out here.
In Washington, I'm Diane Gallagher.
Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the stock market watch at the New York Stock Exchange. Before we do that, a widespread phishing scheme is targeting people across the web. The sophisticated attack looks like it's coming from trusted source. It asks you to open a Google account, a Google document. Google issued a statement reading in part, "We have taken action to protect users against an email impersonating Google Docs and have disabled offending accounts." Take a look at the numbers there. The Dow down 6, NASDAQ and S&P up. Coming up on News 2, it was a day of prayer in the territory. National Day of Prayer was recognized. Find out how many in the territory recognize the observance. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Time for some Caribbean news. The 48th annual Grand Carnival Parade in St. Martin was held this past Monday, and here's an update on the winners.
11 carnival troops brought the A-game for the 48th annual Grand Carnival Parade on Monday. Parade spectators could not complain about the parade as it took nearly 3 hours for sections of the parade to pass key spots along the route. E30 production troupe Escape, the band came out on top as winners of the parade. Love for Fun came in first runner-up, while Survivors individual pieces won best solo piece in the entire parade. Best float went to last year's winner, Rodolphe Scott, with Escape to Freedom Float. The St. Martin Carnival Development Foundation, SCDF, issued a statement on Tuesday saying the board had decided to render final judgment of the parade's participants based on established criteria and after acknowledging some discrepancies with initial judging. SCDF did not provide further details about these discrepancies. SCDF also acknowledged that it has to go back to the drawing board regarding parade criteria to ensure that selected judges are absolutely clear on what to judge. He also said it will address the structure of the parade, which is sometimes a bit unbalanced. As customary, the parade starts off with Posh Production Carnival Queen Show winners in their Jeep Wranglers, followed by First True Gordon Yee, Come Dance With Me, Youth Raid Band, and DJ Soso carried the 6 sections. TV Carib spoke to President of the SCDF, Lawrence, and he gave us an overview of the carnival for 2017.
The wonderful parade is sweet. The weather's holding up with us. Juve was crazy. The shows were crazy. I think we're all satisfied. We're having a great time. And it's so sad we come to the end of it right now, but we're going to have a good time. And we're going to experience second day parade tomorrow. First day parade is still going on. People are loving it. It's great.
Comparable to last year, what do you think about
last year was definitely bigger in numbers. numbers. But this year I think the jam is just a little bit sweeter because our bands are better, our music is better, our costumes are better, and our troops are bigger. So I really love it. It's a good time. We're having a great time.
Well, turning our attention back here at home, more celebrations continue at downtown party in Christiansted called Jump Up, where all the stores remain open. The Virgin Islands Police Department wishes to advise the motoring public of the following parking restrictions and street closings scheduled for that triathlon Jump Up in the town of Christiansted Friday, May 5th. Effective Friday, May 5th from 4 p.m. until the completion of the event, the parking restrictions will be in effect. No parking on King Street or Company Street from King Cross Street to the Wharf area. No parking on Queen Cross Street from the intersection of Company Street to the waterfront at the Caravel Hotel. No parking on Church Street between King and Company Streets. Now, any vehicle found parked in the restricted areas may be ticketed and or towed at the owner's expense. Also, vehicular traffic traveling eastward into Christiansted Town will be rerouted at King Cross Street. Vehicular traffic traveling westward on Hospital Street will be rerouted to Queen Street to proceed west. Well, services were held in the territory today consistent with National Day of Prayer activities that takes place all over the U.S. Governor Kenneth Mapp officially proclaimed May 4th as the Territorial Day of Prayer. In 1952, the United States Congress adopted a resolution to set aside and proclaim the first Thursday of May each year as National Day of Prayer. This year's theme is For Your Great Name's Sake, Hear Us, Forgive Us, Heal Us. Now, leaders, citizens, and residents of our nation and territory are afforded the privilege of prayer, affirming our spiritual heritage and the principles upon which our nation was founded. And that's from Governor Kenneth Mapp. He wrote that in his proclamation. Activities included at 6 a.m. a sunrise prayer at Lindbergh Bay Water Park. At noon, there was a midday prayer at Emancipation Garden. Also, this evening in Emancipation Garden, starting at 7 p.m., evening prayers as well. On St. John, evening prayer began at 7 p.m. at the Nazareth Evangelical Lutheran Church in Cruz Bay, and then on St. Croix there were sunrise prayer services as well at the Sunny Isle Amphitheater at 6 a.m. and a midday prayer took place at Government House steps in Christiansted around noon, and then beginning at 7 p.m. there was evening prayer service at the Sunny Isle Amphitheater. Well, UVI freshman Shani Isaac took first place in the recently concluded third annual VI Literary Festival College Student Writers Competition that was held from April 19th to the 22nd on St. Croix. Isaac, who won the judges' unanimous approval for, as far as I know, she's one of 3 student authors from the University of the Virgin Islands to win the coveted designation for their short stories. Javan Navarro took second place with To the Little House I Returned, while Akiv Scarborough won third place for Akwamu Do Not Cry.